Hi, my name is Jill. You are here at Road Culture Rules, and today is kind of a big subject. It's something I've thought a lot about over the course of my time here on this earth, and Lisa brought it up in the comments, so I wanted to address it. It is going to be very personal for some people. It's not a professional opinion, it's just my personal opinion, and it's just something to think about, and hopefully we never have to. So with that, we're going to take a deep breath, hold for 4, and exhale, and see you on the other side. See what you're chasing and reaching out to a future life you're sure. Keep on running, like slip on the way. Keep on running, like slip on the way. Keep on running. So the big question, which you kind of got from the title, is what would you do if you had to choose between yourself and somebody else in terms of survival? And the reason I'm bringing that up is, I talked not too long ago about a total grid down situation when not everybody's going to come through that with flags waving. And it's something that's fascinated me when I've watched this sort of prepping survival community have these conversations. And there's a lot of not love directed at people who are older about how you're useless, you're not part of society, and how you just need to get out of the way and let the young people come forward and blah, blah, blah. But once you get into that age bracket, pretty much over 40, I would say, because then you're moving out of your prime breeding days. And, you need more women than you need men for that respect. So it's kind of a touchy subject for people. And it's, the younger people are indignant sometimes, and the older people are a little taken aback. And I've talked a little bit about this, when I talked about that book, Two Old Women, and, they were 75 and 80, and they were really tossed out for being too old as a Native American tribe up in Alaska, and ended up fending for themselves and doing quite well. So it's kind of relative, but I wanted to talk about it from a little bit different perspective. And instead of having it be somebody make the choice for you, to think about it on how you would make that choice for yourself. And the reason why I think that's important is not because I'm thinking it's ever going to happen, but mostly because I think we don't think about it at all. I'm fascinated as we get older, my working with people who are a lot older, how, there's sort of that, your time is coming to an end, but there's a real disconnection with it in terms of it being real, and a lack of kind of grabbing every day as being important and valuable instead of just another day. And, anybody could go at any time, right? We could just walk outside. Oh, that meteor is falling, right? It could fall on my trailer and we'd be gone. So it's not something, like I said, I think people should spend a lot of time ruminating about, but I think it's important to actually think about your life and your value and what would you do with it. One, not knowing how much time you have, and two, if it came down to a choice between your life and somebody else's, what would you do? We had the Titanic where the men stayed on board so the women and the children could get off, but the rich people, no matter how old they were, felt special and took themselves off in the very beginning. And we have a fascinating way of looking at that. We have value if we have money, which is not what would rebuild a world if push came to shove. It wouldn't be about money. It would be about the ability to have more children. It would be about skills. It would be about knowledge. It would be about competence. What would make humanity survive and do better, which is kind of an ongoing theme that I talk about. So it's a big question, and it's something I can share on my perspective as a social worker. One of the things that really took me aback was when especially one week in particular, I was covering what they call the neurofloor, which was where anybody who had a brain or spine injury. But for whatever reason, at that time, we had 3 different people, older men, who came in on life support and only had the only way they could live was if by the machines were breathing, and all they could do is blink. And that was the extent of their quality of life. And so there comes a point where, the doctors have to ask the patient and the family, do you want to stay alive? And each had a different scenario, but every single one of them was terrified and wanted to live. And what was interesting is why they would make those choices. One was totally alone. He didn't know anybody. He had no friends. He had no family. Nobody visited him. So his entire life, was up looking at the ceiling and blinking yes or no, waiting for people to change his diapers, waiting to be, attended to. Absolutely zero control over his life. The second one I remember was married, and the wife was younger, and I just remember feeling terrible because she was going to lose everything. His choice to stay in that condition was going to drain every resource that we had, and she wouldn't be able to have a future if she lived in terms of any kind of retirement. And the third one, while I don't remember the individual circumstances, it was sort of the same scenario. There was no quality of life, but yet so much fear and such a desperation to hang on to life. Now, let's reverse that and let's go over to the heart attack floor and the stroke floor, where people are overweight, immobile, they're not taking care of themselves, they're doing nothing to prevent any of those things from happening to them. So we're in this really interesting place in our world where we're terrified to die, but we do very little to try to make sure we live a quality of life. And so, let's make the grid go down, and now we're faced with that same question. Who lives and who dies? And, I think nature will take its course on that, but if you have the choice, I think it's something really helpful to think about. If there's a finite amount of food and there's 3 little kids, a young woman, a young man, and an older couple, how should that be distributed? And there's no right or wrong answer to that, but it's something to think about. And I think it's important to think about because nothing happening still means, as we move deeper into the second part of our life, these are real questions. And it's less about will you live or die, and it's more about, are you doing everything you can now to ensure your quality of life and be a productive, valuable, useful member of society? And how you define that is up to you. I'm not telling you what that means. It's different for everybody. I think it's an important question because I do, in my personal opinion, have seen people are wildly unprepared for facing their death. We never talk about it. People are uncomfortable. In fact, one of the things that I talk about all the time, it didn't bother me, is how grateful people were to be able to talk about it, because nobody would talk about it. Families are afraid to talk about it. Doctors use euphemisms. Everybody kind of avoids the subject. So as people are moving into those last, weeks or months, they're desperate to talk about it. But at the same time, we live in this really kind of cloud of denial about what our life is actually about as we move to where any day could be the last day. It's a very humbling aha moment when you realize you're not going to be here forever. So today is Monday following Easter. I thought it was an appropriate day for that conversation. It's not just about, what would you do in an extreme circumstance? Would you give your life for another so that another can live, that hopefully carry on the species? Or would you do whatever you could to survive every single last day, no matter what it cost anybody around you? Or what if there's no cost to anybody around you, but you have zero quality of life? Would you still hang on with both hands? And the most important question is, are you conscious of the choice that you're making and the life you are living? That's the real issue. So with that, we are going to wind this down. But before we go, we're going to take one more deep breath as together we walk on Survival Road as we rise with the sun in our eyes, love in our heart, feet firmly on the ground. I say those 3 things because they're the keys to making you healthy. As together we walk on Survival Road, one step at a time. So we're doing stay human, live free, and die wild. We'll see you next time.